everyone, so we're going to be having a look now at the individual research project, which is the part of the speaking exam for the A Level Languages exam. So I'm going to be focusing on French and Spanish, and obviously any options that you are choosing it could also be the AQA individual research project. So you will do your stimulus card as the first element of the speaking exam, and then you will do your IRP. And this little video is going to explain what the IRP is all about. So I'm not going to read this entirely through. You can pause this for yourselves, but it's the element of the speaking component, and it's not part of the AS level, and it's with the stimulus card and the IRP, it composes 30% of the A-level paper. It's out of 60 marks. So for your speaking exam, you will choose your stimulus card between the two choices that are available. You have 5 minutes to make that choice, and then you will have a discussion about that. And then you've got the second element of the speaking, which is the IRP. You're not allowed access to a dictionary in this time, only the 5 minutes preparation time. And some schools have a visiting examiner, some schools have their normal class teacher to conduct this exam with them. So it's quite specific what you need to do. You need to do a little bit of research in terms of what you can and can't study. So for example, the life and times of key political figure X is far too broad a topic area, because that doesn't really, you can't get to a conclusion, you can't really get to a final point. It's quite good, I found, to have a question. And then you can then come to the answer of the question by the end of the discussion. And also that's quite good to have a debate to really probe your analysis of the chosen topic. So your teacher has to be really, really careful in terms of what they can and cannot do. So you can have one-to-one meetings with your students to have a little bit of guidance, but your teacher cannot give you a huge amount of support. It's the independent research project, so you're meant to be doing this independently. So you have to be really careful in terms of what you can ask and what your teacher, how much guidance they can give you. So you can use and refer to a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 10 sources, and we'll have a look at those in a second, and one of which must be an internet source. I think most people now use most of their sources from the internet, and that's fine, but one of them must be from the internet. So you could use, for example, YouTube, Dailymotion, and many of the different options that you can find according to what you're researching. So you need to be really careful. You can pause the video here and have a look at these questions, but choosing sources and collecting information in the target language. So keep a separate file, use the library, note key stats, get talking if you're lucky to have an assistant, get talking to them, ask information from them or any Spanish or French or whichever language speakers ask them as well. And then you need to have a think about what you're going to include in your 2-minute presentation. Have you highlighted the questions that might be asked? Have you prepared answers to these questions? And have you anticipated and prepared answers to other questions which might arise? So your teacher or your examiner should be not just going against your candidate record form, they should be really questioning you. And if there's any sort of hint of a lengthy pre-learned text that you have learnt, then your teacher should be interjecting to try and reduce that amount of monologue. And so therefore they might just, in the middle of your monologue, they might ask you a specific question to kind of steer you away. And so be prepared for that and say everything that you want to say in the kind of early stages of what you're saying in answer to specific questions. So that then, it's likely you're going to be nervous. You want to get everything out, that you want to say. You don't want to get to the end and then to be like, oh, I haven't said that, I haven't said that, I haven't said that. But you also need to make sure that you don't answer everything. in your 2-minute presentation, you still need to leave plenty of scope for your discussion for the remaining 9 to 10 minutes. Also in your presentation, when you're doing your preparation in terms of learning your introduction, and you can learn that by heart, I wouldn't be too close to the 2 minutes because you need to leave a bit of room for hesitation. I would go around the 1 minute 40, 1 minute 50 mark. The last thing you want is, to get to 2 minutes and then be cut off, because you will be cut off from your teacher because because you've got to the 2 minutes, you'll be timed. And so therefore you can't risk getting to the 2 minutes and then not saying what you've wanted to say. So again, you can pause the video here and have a look at these questions. These are obviously in English, and these are really good questions to ask yourself when you've kind of in the flow of what you're saying to discuss your findings. So then, in terms of revision, have you prepared your notes? Have you got mind maps or a PowerPoint to organise your material? You don't need to give a presentation, of course. You'll have access to your candidate record form in front of you, and your teacher/examiner will have that as well. But then really try and practice with somebody else. So now that I'm tutoring, I can support students. However, when I was a teacher, I wasn't able to help and support them with, running through the IRP. So therefore, if you've got somebody who's a French or Spanish speaker, then ask them, to check. They might not know exactly what the exam requirements are, but they can check your French and Spanish and the pronunciation and the content of what you're doing. Also, just listen back to yourself for speed, clarity, pronunciation and intonation. So an examiner is going to be listening to you speaking. So therefore, is everything really, really crystal clear? They won't be able to see you, obviously, or your mouth move. So therefore, you need to make sure that everything that you're saying is really, really clear. So we're going to have a look now at the candidate record form. And so here is what you'll be filling in. And this is the 2025 version, obviously. So you tick the information here and your centre number, centre name, candidate number, and your name. And then here is where you put the subject or the title or question, if that may be, and then the sources. And then these are the points that you will be following in your discussion. And again, be really, really careful to, just to kind of bullet point these, but equally be really mindful that there will be questions interjected in between these as well. They may not also go in the order that you expected. It depends on, what sort of things you're saying. And also there's no hard and fast rule on this because the IRP topics are so different. Every student I've taught has had very, very different IRPs. So therefore, there's a whole range of different options that these can be filled out with. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. Anything else that you want to ask or comment, then please feel free to get in touch. Au revoir, adios.